there was civilian injury from word-go. And in fact, I can emphasize this. This is very important to know. The attack started at 11 o'clock on the 27th of December. Mostly helicopters, F-16s, I think. And within a quarter of an hour of that starting, they'd killed over 200 people. Mostly they were police graduates and children. The children were changing shifts. The schools were so crowded, they changed shifts at 11 o'clock. They knew that, the Israelis. They also, this is not known widely, but they were also targeting civil defense centers from which the ambulances are coordinated. And it was hardly one civil defense center left intact within a quarter of an hour of the bombardment starting. It was deliberate. It was targeted so that there was dislocation of the means to deal with the casualties, and many of the ambulances were fired upon. This has been written up by Eva Jakobitz, who's in fact in prison now in Israel. She was on the boats. Iwa, a wonderful girl. And something like 11 doctors and paramedics were killed. Now, you know very well that even in the First World War, a hellhole, that a Red Cross meant that you didn't fire upon it. But that doesn't count when it's the Israelis attacking populations in Lebanon or Gaza or wherever. Now, so that started, and I wept, I think. I probably was also outraged. I suppose I wasn't surprised either. And I decided, I knew a boat was leaving from Larnaca because I belonged to, I'm loosely attached to an organisation called Free Gaza, which played a big part in the present flotilla. And I found that there was a place on the boat, and they were willing for me to take it. And I flew immediately. It was at the Christmas celebrations, which I find difficult anyway, but I went up to Heathrow by train and then by plane, and joined the ship about an hour before it cast off, slipped its moorings at Larnaca. And that was 8 o'clock on the 27th, and we gunned out into the Mediterranean in the dark, in a calm, and within a short time there was a pretty stiff wind and it got rough. And at about 5 o'clock, I've been vomiting all night, I get seasick quite easily now, and 5 o'clock in the morning, there were 15 other passengers, some very remarkable people amongst them. There were 2 doctors, one a surgeon, lady surgeon from Cyprus, remarkable lady with some supporters, and a young Palestinian doctor who I knew already, and Mo, and there were some camera teams, one Al Jazeera, one from CNN. And at 5 o'clock in the morning, some searchlights appeared astern, and I knew that they were gunboats because I'm familiar with them from being in Gaza and seeing them creaming along in a few miles off the coast, and sometimes shooting the fishermen in their great cruelty. And the searchlights continued. They came abreast, they went ahead, fell back. These vessels can do 45 knots or more. The wake sometimes, they call it the rooster's tail, I think they call it. The wake is sometimes 3 times as high as a boat. Massively powerful. And it seems to go quite up for half an hour, 5:30. And then, a few minutes later, there's a tremendous crash on the bow, and the bow dipped a few feet, it seemed. Another crash across the saloon where I was sitting with the cartons and medical supplies on the port beam. And the master said, we've been rammed. I could feel that. But I thought we were breaking up. Would soon be in the sea as the boat foundered, and that I would drown. There was about a 10-foot sea. It was dark, and there was about a 4 to 5 force, Beaufort force wind. And we scrabbled for our life jackets, life vests. Dear Cynthia McKinney, a remarkable lady from ex-congresswoman, who spoke her mind about Zion, what it was doing in America and in Palestine, and was therefore ousted from the Congress using some trick, I forget which. She said to me, "David, I can't swim." I said, "Cynthia, I will stay with you." She always thinks I saved her life. I did nothing of the sort. I just, in fact, gave her some comfort. In fact, I knew we would drown if we went down, if the boat went down, because I was wearing a puffer jacket, which would be useless in the sea, and I knew too that they would run us down if we were still buoyant. And also the wake would have been used to help drown us as well, actually. And it would have been a short story. I hadn't thought this, as I knew later. It would have been a short story that activists, I hate the word, activists had lost at sea a position 63 miles off the Israeli coast of Haifa. We were 63 miles off, by the way. And a boat built in 1972 in Italy. That was it. Do you see? Great sorrow. Anyway, we didn't sink. The pumps were working. There was a leak below the waterline. The wheelhouse was smashed terribly, and the mast was lucky not to have been injured or killed, because the bow rode right up over the bow of our boat, the Dignity. And it wasn't a glass reinforced plastic boat hull, which I think is what the Israelis thought. It was in fact marine ply with oak ribs and a strong boat, and that's why it didn't sink. We had two 840 Detroit diesel motors down below. It was a fast boat, and with that weight down below, and if the pumps had not been adequate, and if the hole in the hull had been large, we would have been down like a stone. You see? So I did actually think for a little while that I was going to leave this world, along with my 15 mates. The only other Briton was the master, Dennis. Good chap, good master. Anyway, he put out a mayday and there was no response. The sea was empty of craft apart from us, the Dignity, and these two bloody Israeli gunboats with their cannons on their foredecks and all the rest of their bloody weapons, and their very powerful motors down below. And that's all we had. And the first warning. The other thing is, I should add this, not a thing I've written about before, but you usually use channel 16 for communication at sea, I believe, from memory. But the Israelis insisted upon using another channel. Guess why? So that their conversations with ships are more easily excluded from other vessels. But over I think on channel 16 came this from one of the masters of the Israeli gunboats. He said, "You are subversives or terrorists or something like that, and we're going to shoot you." I'm told this is Dennis. I believe Dennis is a very straight chap. He then in fact said, "You have to make back to Larnaca." We were already 3/4 of our way to Gaza. We didn't have sufficient diesel, but more especially the wheelhouse was smashed. If we'd have had big head seas, as we would have had actually if we'd turned, that's where it was, in fact it was a northerly wind, we would have in fact been shipping water and were more likely sinking. So they attacked us with lethal intent. They wanted to try. I have no doubt about that at all. It's been put out by the Israelis then, it was put out, as a collision. A collision. We were trying to avoid. We took avoiding action and collided with them by mistake. This is the spin. This is the lie, like the lies they're putting out now about the boarding of the ship and the mass murder on the decks of the Mavi Marmara. Anyway, the master, I'm not sure we negotiated with him, but he said no, he didn't have enough diesel, but we could go to, and we weren't allowed to go to Gaza. Let's stop that. We could have got to Gaza quite easily, and running. In fact, the sea was running with us, and we put about and went to Sur, where we received the hero's welcome. After we passed the Israeli limits, we were taken over by a very large UNIFIL boat. United Nations is very good at all these titles, UNIFIL, UNRWA, UNICEF. They're very good at this, at the persisting misery of humanity. And this is one of them relating to the Lebanon War. This big ship took us under its wing. We went up in towards Tyre, Suez it's called there, and then a Lebanese army torpedo boat type of thing took us in to dock. But what more can I say about the Dignity? As I say, the attempt, I have no doubt that their ramming was lethal. And there's a feature which it's worth repeating, that I got from Master later. Apparently, one gunboat stayed on our port side and played its searchlight on our port hull.